Thank you all for coming here. This is really amazing. It's wonderful to see. The Broadway plan was passed by Vancouver City Council in the summer of 2022. It covers about 500 blocks from Vine Street in the west to Clark Drive in the east, and from First Avenue in the north to 16th Avenue in the south. So Broadway is actually a renamed 9th Avenue. So the Broadway plan covers 8 blocks north of Broadway and 7 blocks south. Everything in there, a huge swath of the city, and a very large percentage of the city's affordable rental housing stock. It's also home to many strata buildings that are affordable, but their future is determined by their residents and owners. That matters rather than their landlords. The plan is touted as a 30-year plan that will add 30,000 new homes to the city. Remember those numbers, 30,000 homes over 30 years. And by the way, no new schools, no new parks, no new community facilities are included in the plan. None. I and many others here today tried and did manage to participate in one or more of the city's curated Zoom meetings about the Broadway plan with the public. Attendance was limited in number, but not in participation. Many attendees were from outside Vancouver, even outside Canada. Audience questions were only seen by city staff, who decided which ones to answer. Timing was usually during dinner. No neighborhood associations were invited until a token meeting at the last moment of consultation. This may explain why more than 200 folks spoke against the plan when they were finally permitted to during a lengthy public hearing. Regardless, the plan was passed by City Council in June 2022 and came into force in September, just over 2 years ago. When the plan was finally published in detail, I read it carefully and worked with Stephen Bohus, who's here today, to model what it meant. More than 500 towers by our conservative estimation. We were heavily criticized at the time by the then mayor, by the development industry, even by architects. And yet, after just 2 years into this so-called 30-year plan, Steve and I have sadly been shown to be correct. With more than 90% of the first more than 100 proposed rezonings located in exactly the places and at exactly the heights we predicted. That means 2/3 of the 30-year plan's construction targets are in play in just 2 years. That's 20,000 of the plan's 30,000 homes in 2 years rather than 30. What a bonanza to developers. What a tragedy for the affected neighborhoods. And still, no parks, no community centers, no schools in that mix. But it gets worse. City staff are about to produce an update to the plan in which they will apparently recommend that the 2 towers per block in the original plan that we modeled to criticism and disdain be expanded to 4 or even 5 towers per block. The illustration in my latest City Conversation blog post shows what 4 or 5 high-rises per block looks like in Brisbane, a city I recently visited, hence the hat. Described by Forbes Business Magazine as severely unaffordable. High-rise windows facing walls at most 20 feet away. It ain't pretty, it ain't spacious, and it sure ain't affordable. The province has exacerbated these conditions with adoptions of its bills 44, 46, and 47, which mandate ever higher density, largely at the cost of affordable rental and ownership homes for folks who are not wealthy and have spent their adult lives living in and contributing to the Vancouver that is now imperiled by the unsupported and unscientific claims that if we build it, they will move right in. Yeah. This is important, there are no peer-reviewed scientific studies that show how building higher and denser improves affordability. None in Canada, none in the US, none in the UK, none in Australia or New Zealand, not one. But there are many peer-reviewed studies, more every day as this becomes more controversial, showing the reverse, that density and height detract from affordability and livability. No surprise. The latest example of how, if we build it, they will move right in is working is at Large Street and 2nd Avenue in Kitsilano, a heavily government subsidized private development of rental homes that's 40% empty months after opening, possibly because the spaces are so small and the rents are so high. Welcome to the Broadway Plan's future for you. And have no doubt that with the exploratory drilling already happening along Broadway, west of Vine Street, there's every intention by government to expand the Broadway Plan out to UBC, despite no economic case for a SkyTrain expansion there. In which case, say goodbye to the rest of Kitsilano, unless we pause the plan. I didn't hear that. The recently blocked off city steps to City Hall behind me are a metaphor for the effects of these bills in Vancouver's council to block any critical public input to a spreading pox of spot rezonings that are already destroying neighborhoods, evicting long-term residents, and threatening all of the existing community amenities that used to be funded by growth. The long-established principle that growth pays for growth, which gave us the parks, the schools, and the community centers in Cole Harbour and Falls Creek North most recently, is gone. Now it's us who get to pay for the cancerous growth that profits the few at a cost to the many. We pay in lost affordable homes, lost dignity, and lost community. There are alternative solutions that some of the following speakers will touch on. Many of these solutions have been successfully implemented elsewhere and even here in Vancouver in the past. They lie in our own recent history of affordable rentals, cooperatives, and even strata projects, forgotten or never learned by the current generation of politicians and city staff. We must demand that the Broadway Plan not be expanded as proposed by city staff, rather than it be paused until the real harms contained in it have not only been addressed, but resolved to the benefit of you, your families, friends, and neighbors. We can do this, and we can do this better by working together. Thank you for being here today, for listening. And caring. About the city where we love to live.